Do you have experiences where taking drugs or smoking weed, drinking a little bit, where that enhances your creativity in any way, or it didn't work? Because I've smoked some weed and tried to make some stuff. I've drank and tried to make some stuff. Like, I'm kind of in between on what it actually does and what it doesn't do. So I'm curious if you've had any experience.
I never really liked weed that much. Like, I smoked it a bit in college here and there, but I never enjoyed it. I drank. Well, I went through a period of my life where I drank pretty heavily to the point that I was like, am I an alcoholic? I'm not sure. And, but it definitely doesn't enhance my creativity. It just makes me lazy, and makes it harder for me to get any work done, because I just don't, I'm like, I've got a buzz on and I'm like, nah, I don't want to work. I'm just going to goof off. Actually, I was drinking some, I got into mixology for a while. I got really into making drinks and stuff. And so at one point I was at the doctor just for an annual checkup, and she said, how many drinks do you have a week? And I was like, a week? Okay. She's like, the fact that you have to do a lot of math for that is troubling me, and so I realized I was having like maybe 5 drinks a night, like 5 cocktails a night. And she's like, okay, yeah, that's a lot. And I'm like, well, it doesn't, I don't really get drunk. And she's like, that's because you've built up a huge alcohol tolerance, and I was like, and she's like, you should not drink that much. It's bad for you, duh. And there's alcoholism in my family. And so I was like, I better look into this. So I decided I'm going to do an experiment. Just going to try an experiment. I'm going to go a week without drinking any alcohol and find out if that's difficult. Like, if that turns out to be a real problem for me, then that means I have a problem, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I went a week without drinking alcohol, and it was no problem.
Yeah.
It was no problem at all. And then, so I said, like, well, then why the hell am I drinking so much? Like, I'm not an alcoholic. I can go without drinking, and I'm drinking like 10,000 calories a week. That it's just going to go to fat, and I'm just like, why don't I not do that? And so I haven't really been drinking much since then. I'll have like maybe 1 beer a month or something like that. And so I guess I'm boringly clean. I'm
yeah. Well, maybe the boringness is what allows you to create such chaotic worlds and bring them to solutions. The boringness and the routine, which I kind of feel like... I'm not against
it, by the way, for any of your listeners. I have no problem with people smoking weed or cigarettes, for that matter, or boozing up, whatever. Do what you want. But for whatever reason, I never enjoyed weed, and I really enjoyed alcohol. But then I realized I was starting to take it too far, so dialed it back. I was a cigarette smoker for many years. For 11 years, actually. I was a hardcore smoker. I mean, it was like pack and a half a day. I was on the express train to lung cancer, and quitting that was very hard.
Did you find that the nicotine boost helped you focus? Because I have a lot of experience with the dipping aspect when I was studying in college, or when I was trying to write a paper, like throw a dip in. It's like I felt like I got a second wind when I had nicotine.
Oh, it's an upper, right? Nicotine is a stimulant. And I don't know. I just really loved it. I loved smoking, man. If they cured cancer tomorrow, I'd buy a pack of cigarettes later that day.
Yeah. No, it's
I miss it. I haven't smoked in coming on 20 years. So it's been almost 20 years since I last had a cigarette. So I think it's safe to say I kicked the habit, but man, I still miss it. When I walk by, someone on the sidewalk smoking, I walk through the cloud and I smell it. I'm like, oh,
Yeah. No, I guess I'm probably lucky genetically and that I don't have much history. I don't believe I have much alcoholism or any cigarette smokers in my family, or maybe one. But I feel like I've always been able to kind of like dabble in and out of drinking, and I feel like it's not better or worse creating for me. I feel like when I have one or two drinks in me, or I'll smoke a cigarette every once in a while, it's like a different sort of thinking. It's like I'm going laterally in some aspect. It's not like I'm making something better. It's like I have something in me that's forcing me or allowing the doors to open in some sort of way. And it's fun to do every once in a while. And I've always had this thing in the back of my head where I know, like, it's maybe it's the way my parents raised me, and I'm not remembering everything my parents said to me when I was younger, but I'm just like scared shitless of making something like that a habit. And so it's not like any moral thing where I'm like, this is bad, I can't do it. It's just like something internally keeps me from making it a habit. And so since I have that within me, I have enjoyed kind of delving into that world, using it creatively every once in a while, and then, you know, ripping a cig, like writing something. And I just enjoy having something. I enjoy having a coffee during the day. If I'm recording a podcast, caffeine, 100%.
I mainline caffeine.
Yeah, it's like, and if I'm writing something and it's like 8 o'clock at night, I'm like, do I want to have a decaf coffee or should I have one pour of whiskey? I'm just like, I need something in my system, so why not have a glass of whiskey? Yeah. It's like an ignition.
I actually, it's weird. In a weird way, I consider smoking to have been very good for me in the long term, because I took up smoking in college, which right there is weird. Most people start smoking in high school or whatever, but I took up I didn't smoke until long after it was legal for me to smoke, which is weird. But I took up smoking in college because I was hanging out with a bunch of people who smoked, and I'm like, let me try one of those. And like I got hooked on it like right away, like so fast. I went from like never had a cigarette to I need a cigarette in like 2 weeks, you know. And then from then on, I was like a regular smoker, pack a day, then up to pack and a half a day. On bad days when I'm sad or whatever, it'd be like 2 packs a day. And then and many attempts to quit and just failure after failure. And I finally did manage to quit, but while I was in college, I hung out with a group of people, and they did lots of drugs, like hardcore drugs and stuff too. And I always said no to all of that, everything but pot. I mean, I said no to all of the other stuff because I'm like, I saw how quick I got addicted to nicotine. Like, I have an addictive personality. I know that now. Like I went from zero to give me a goddamn cigarette in 2 weeks, and so I'm not touching any of that harder stuff. I'm out.
Yeah.
So I think that was great because it made me never even consider that stuff.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'd never tried a cigarette until I was maybe 19 or 20 years old, and as a dipper, I enjoyed it. It might have been, it was probably worse in a way because you can dip inside and no one will know. You just got to spit in a bottle. I could be in class, I could be in the library, I could be at practice. You bring it wherever you want. And then I remember the first time standing outside a bar in Richmond where I went to school, and someone offered me a cigarette, and I took a hit of it, and I was kind of drunk, and then I felt the buzz, and I was like, oh, now I really feel this. One puff of a cigarette could enhance your buzz that much. This is
that
wild.
goes away pretty quick, but
exactly, yeah, it does. It does. But like, I understand that hook into it. And people are like, oh, cigarettes are disgusting. I'm like, have you ever had a pull of a cigarette with 3 or 4 drinks in you? Like, that shit just like brings you to another level. I can understand how people get hooked to it.
Well, you know, this episode of your podcast is all very pro-heroin, pro-nicotine.
Yes. Yeah, that's gonna be the title for this episode. It's gonna be 9/11 cigarettes and heroin.
Get a cigarette and a dirty needle. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, exactly.
No. So kids, don't smoke. No. My God. I mean, one of the things that made me decide to really work on quitting smoking the time I actually was successful was one time it was like almost 20 years ago. So I was in my late 20s, and like I was crossing just a 4-lane street with a walk signal, and it turned into the blinky hand, and so I had to run for the second half. And I was so winded after that I did like hands on my knees, thought I was going to puke and stuff like that. It's like, I ran across half of a street and now I can't breathe. smoking is bad. It's bad, okay?
And was that the end all be all for 20 years? That was the instance?
No, I then came up with a plan that I rigidly implemented, which was like, all right, I'm going to start by smoking a pack a day, cut myself down to a pack a day for a week, and then 19 cigarettes a day for a week, and then 18 cigarettes a day for a week, and so on, until I got down to 1 cigarette a day and then 0 cigarettes a day, and that worked. But
so you weaned it off methodically.
I weaned it off. Yeah, that was my plan. I don't know if it's a good way or a bad way, but it's what worked.